Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hallidays. Welcome to our Business AM sessions. You'll see that we normally do run these sessions in the office, but obviously throughout the last 10 months about what's happened, we can't do that at the moment. Ordinarily, I would be in the office running this, but not only has COVID stopped us getting in the office, but the weather has this morning as well. So, what we've done our last 10 months in terms of all these Zoom calls, etc., we can deliver these anytime now, so there's no excuse for not delivering any of these sessions. What is the BAM? For those of you that don't know, it's a step-by-step guide to business growth. It's nothing to do with these sessions with what a profit and loss account is, what a balance sheet is. We don't do anything on compliance. This is about you guys. This is about your businesses. This is about us helping you put some actions together to help your businesses grow. So we've got a program that we go through. So it's a 2-year program. There's 5 sessions on the first year, 5 sessions on the second year. We've already delivered the first 2 sessions. So the first session was around setting goals for growth. So looking at your business goals, looking at your personal goals, looking at your vision and your mission, what you're trying to achieve in your businesses, and then looking at maybe the gaps between perhaps where you are with your particular personal goals or your business goals, and thinking about how we can close them. The last session, we talked about removing some of these barriers, because we've got quite a lot of barriers to prevent us from either hitting our goals or prevent us from growing our businesses. And a lot of those are based around the habits that we have. So great time at the moment. January's just gone to reset our habits, get rid of some of these bad habits, get our good habits going, all set for this calendar year to push us forward. The session today is going to be around developing a growth strategy. This is mainly based around your customer strategy. So it's based on a piece of research that's been carried out, and I think you're going to gather quite a few actions from the session today. We then look at how we can help you grow as leaders, just as important as anything else, to make sure that we're holding ourselves to account. And then we're going to look at growing the power of your team, quite critical really. You know, the most important things within your businesses will be your team and your customers, so that's a critical one. That ends the first year of programming. We then look at growth through pricing and the pricing side of it, about how we can make those quick wins a lot quicker than perhaps we can do with other types of growth. We then look at some key growth drivers. Then we're going to look at some marketing side of it, looking at how we can develop your systems and make sure your systems are there so your business is relying on systems rather than yourselves. And then that'll grow in terms of looking for exit. We then have a review of your successes at the end of it. And this is I think this is the 4th time now that we've been through this program. And it's really interesting. Every time we go through it, for the last 3 times, when we review those successes at the end, the amount of success people have had from taking action. So as long as you guys, all the time, from these different steps, take action, we guarantee that you're going to take massive strides towards your goals. And the results can be quite huge at times. What we're going to do this morning, do the brief introduction. We're then going to have a look at some actions that you guys have taken over the last couple of months, maybe from the last BAM sessions that you've done, or maybe some fantastic things that you've done within your own businesses. We're then going to do the presentation. We'll have a break around about 25 past 10. We'll finish off the second half of the presentation, and then we'll then go through the feedback. Now, if we hold these in the office, obviously it's a great opportunity for people to network, but not just network, to gather ideas from like-minded business owners as well, things that maybe you can implement within your own businesses. We should all be done and wrapped up by 11 o'clock. So what actions have you taken that have actually delivered some results since the last session? So as I mentioned before, We talked previously about setting personal and business goals. Have you set any of those personal business goals? Maybe you're on your way to achieving some of those already. Have you set your vision or your mission in your business? From the last session, habits. Has anybody set any great habits from the 1st of January? Have you got rid of some of these bad habits? How's that going? Or maybe you've done something fantastic within your own businesses since the last session that you want to tell everyone about.
Chris McCarthy's written in, Phil, taking on a new member of staff. So there's 4 of them now, but it's a bit too early to see the results of that yet.
Oh, fantastic. Well done there, Chris. I presume the 4 that you're taking on is because of growth and expansion.
Craig's also wrote in, Craig Shenton. He's appointed, excuse me, a business administrator to handle many of the things that were taking up too much time. That's allowed him to work on his business rather than working for his business.
Yeah, that's a great one, because that actually comes from potentially urgent and important matrix that was discussed last time. So making sure you're doing the right things and delegating down the things that are not as important and urgent in your business.
Janine was just wrote in as well, working with GM Chambers of Commerce to access training and upskilling staff.
Fantastic. That's great, that, Janine. Brilliant.
Jay Mysteries also wrote, looking to refine our wages process, researching electronic timesheets instead of paper-based.
Right, brilliant. Yeah, so we're all moving towards a digitalized world, aren't we? Fantastic. I think the big one there is probably Craig's, really, where we've got another message, have we?
Oh yeah, Ian's just wrote in, Ian Parkinson, step back from day-to-day distractions to address personal goals for the business.
Yeah, brilliant. Another one maybe where you're looking at your urgent and important matrix and doing the right things within your business.
Definitely. Which one do you think's the winner then, Phil?
I think Craig's is a good one. Just to delegate down some of that responsibility, really. And if he's been using the urgent and important matrix, I think that's a great tool for all of us to use. We do get tied up sometimes in those non-important, non-urgent tasks that if he's delegating those down, that'll help him just to effectively relieve some of that time and allow him to concentrate on the things that are most important within his business. So I'm happy to give this champagne to Craig. So well done, Craig. Some really good actions there. And it's good to see that we're taking action within our businesses, even during these times when it's difficult. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to look at trying to develop a growth strategy and give you the tools around that to give you an outline of how you can actually do it. And it is based on a piece of research that's quite critical, which I'll go through shortly. And we always go through this slide at every single BAM. So if you've attended before, you've always seen this slide. Now, this is the critical thing about, we need to understand where we are and where we need to get to. And it's quite easy to use this when we're looking at our personal or our business goals, but also you can do this with any sort of strategy that you're actually trying to develop and put together. But we always know that it's never a straight route from the bottom of the mountain to the top. It's always got to wind our way up. And as we've seen probably the last 10 months, we do get a few knocks along the way, but we've got to get back on that actual route and make sure we've still got that target in mind that we're trying to achieve. But you can utilize this in any strategy, whether it's your people strategy, your operational strategy, your finance strategy, whatever it is, you can utilize this to plot what you need to do to get to where you want to be. So always a critical slide that to keep in mind. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about today is beach balls, okay? Now, it represents a very strong metaphor, the beach ball. When you look at it, it's got different segments on it. And the different segments mean that wherever you look at this beach ball, you will get a different perspective every time. So we'd love to be on a beach at the moment, throwing a beach ball around, or have the opportunity to do that this year. Hopefully we will do. But for the moment, I want you to imagine this beach ball is your products or your services. So when we're trying to sell our products and services, some people don't like that word sell, but that's what we're trying to do, then we have to keep in perspective who is sat on the other side of the table when they are looking at this product and service, this beach ball. Okay? But during the presentation today, I want you to think about and consider what this metaphor, this beach ball represents. Because we need to, as businesses, we need to start turning this beach ball around so that we understand the view, the perspective that either our prospective customers get who are trying to sell new business to, or maybe it's existing customers who are trying to sell new products or services to. We've always got to keep in mind the perspective of that person on the other side. Very critical that. I want you to keep that in mind as we go along the presentation today. But what could your strategy be? Where do we start with this? What have we got to do? Could you effectively be just the norm in your industries? So just do what everyone else does? Or maybe you could be different. Maybe you could be different like the British fleet in the Battle of Trafalgar. In the Battle of Trafalgar, the French and the Spanish versus the British fleet. And normally in naval warfare during those days, everyone would set up just like the French and the Spanish there on the right-hand side, and they'd face to face in terms of battle. But on this occasion, Nelson, he wanted to end this battle. And he wanted to do something different. So he set up totally different to what the norm was in naval warfare. He set up in two lines that allowed him to split the French and the Spanish into three distinct areas, and then he could pick them off. Nelson obviously was victorious, but he dared to be different. So in business, all right, hopefully we're not faced with a life or death situation, but sometimes we do have to dare to be different rather than being the norm. Now, being the norm's fine, okay, a lot of advantages there. You've got a model to follow, you've effectively got, things are done in a normal way, but you might end up achieving mediocrity. And then what happens with competition, where you're under pricing pressure from competition maybe? And then because you're under pricing pressure, that might put you under pressure for keeping your best people, to delivering your best service. So we have to think about, do we be different in our industries, or do we continue to do what everybody else does? Do we need to stand out a bit more? What other strategies are available? So maybe we could be a low-cost leader strategy. Maybe we could be the cheapest in our industry. Just do a quick poll on this, on the low-cost leadership strategy. Whoever's on the call at the moment, on the webinar at the moment, just do a quick poll to say, are you, or does your business adopt a low-cost leadership strategy? So are you trying to be the cheapest in your industry? Just a simple yes or no to say whether you are. That's interesting, that. I was expecting something similar, and I'm really interested in the ones where we've said yes, actually, because it's probably been quite a difficult period over the last 10 months about how cash-wise you've managed to actually make sure the business has stayed afloat. But as we can see there, the majority have said no, which is great. That's fantastic. But does your actual product or service, we'll do another poll here, is your product or service below average compared to your competition? So the majority have said that their products and service is probably better than the competition, not below average compared to the competition. Now, the low-cost leadership strategy, that is, I would say, is quite a risky strategy. You know, certainly in times where you have bumps along the way, unless you've got significant cash reserves, then you might struggle over a period of time. And ordinarily, low-cost leaders have tight margins, which means cash flow can be very difficult depending on what industry you're in. So if you're not going to be a low-cost leader, we then want to think about adopting a strategy, maybe adopting a value proposition strategy. So making sure we're offering something of value. We don't want to be a low-cost leader, and offering value does actually look like we are slightly different to the competition. Well, do we want to be better, or do we want to be different than our competition and in our industry? Being better, yes, we always want to be better than our competition. But actually, it's very difficult for our prospective customers to buy from us when they don't know us and they don't perceive that we are better than our competition. So to give us the best opportunity of gathering that new business, maybe we need to look a little bit different than the competition. And we need to stand out a bit more than what the competition does. And we've seen that during the last recession and post-last recession, where the banks obviously had to shore up their balance sheets. And we saw a load of new entrants come into the banking sector. You know, we had the likes of Monzo, etc., that came through that were all online banking. They could open accounts within a matter of hours. Some of them now have got significant numbers of customers. We saw funders entering the market who are offering better opportunities for people and businesses to access money. So we've seen that in all industries, new entrants coming in that look different to what's already in there. Uber's a huge example of that in the transportation market. Kodak are probably an example of not being different or not advancing quick enough. So Kodak invented the first digital camera in the 70s. They didn't release a digital camera for another 2 decades after that. They continued to produce cameras with films in it. Now imagine going on holiday, those of you that remember going on holiday, taking loads of pictures on a film-based camera, not knowing what the pictures are going to turn out until you get them developed when you get home. You could probably at least chuck 25% of them away because they'd be awful. That never changed for a while. And we've seen digital cameras come in to change that. Digital cameras now being replaced by mobile phones and tablets. And something else will come along that will look different to what's in that particular sector. But any sector, it all changes. Doesn't matter which sector it is. Commodities, the likes of bottled water and packaged products that have already been cut up for you. So we need to think about how we can be different within our own industries and from our competition. And when we're setting this strategy, we've got to keep in mind all the time what our core purpose and our core values are. And we've got to think more about the why we're in business. We're all very good, and we've discussed this in previous bands, we're all very good at knowing what we do and how we do it. And this goes back to Simon Sinek, we've mentioned before, Simon Sinek's golden circle. We're good at what we do and how we do it, but not the why. Why are we in business? And don't forget, we're not in business to make loads of cash, to make loads of profit. Those are the results. So you need to find a core purpose and a core values within your businesses, and make sure when you're designing this strategy, it is designed around those core purpose and core values. So today, I want to go through four key things to try and develop this growth strategy. The final three on there are part of a piece of research that I'll go through shortly. The first one though, TM stands for target market. What could your target market be? What could it be? What is it? You want to be and have your products and service offered to the whole of the board, all the way from gold to white? Or do you want to offer something that's a little bit more targeted, right into the bullseye, for example? Or maybe the black lines around the bullseye, so you're really targeted. I think we probably all realise that there's probably no product or service out there that is offered to everyone. But trying to build a product or service to offer to everyone is just impossible. Not even the biggest organisations do that. So being more targeted is critical. And we're thinking about this target market, and we've got to think about the target market. We've got to design it alongside this value proposition that we're trying to produce. So that allows us then to be a bit more focused in that area. Now, one way of thinking about this target market is to think about what your ideal customer is, or your ideal client. What do they look like? Coming up with some sort of objective criteria to build this target market. When we've built the target market, the initial target market, that target market will evolve. And in any industry, target markets evolve. So, for example, Nike, in his book, Phil Knight, book Shoe Dog, he talks about how he expanded. Now, Phil, before even Nike existed, Phil imported shoes, running shoes, from Japan under a franchise agreement with Tiger Shoes. And the reason why he wanted to bring in running shoes was based around what a lot of us in business do. It's based around something that he was good at, which was running, but he just wasn't the elite runner that he wanted to be. He wanted to be an elite runner, but he just couldn't live out personally that dream. So he wanted to live out his dream through other people, through running shoes. Now, when that agreement with Tiger Shoes broke down, Phil Knight then came up with Nike. And those that you don't know, that the Nike swoosh, the Nike brand, that Nike brand was produced for $35 by Carolyn Davidson. And obviously nowadays is worth billions. And Phil moved away from running shoes to other markets, other sports, and he targeted another target market. So then he looked at basketball, baseball, American football, and then he moved into fashion. So fashion shoes and clothing. So he moved away into different target markets as his product evolved. So when you're designing this target market, there will be an expansion, there will be this evolution. Car manufacturers are a prime example, aren't they? You think of a car out there, whatever the demographic or whatever the person looks like, there is a car out there that's being designed for them. Whether it's a family car, an SUV, or a hot hatch, or a small car, a large car, whatever it is, car manufacturers have designed cars for different target markets. So the reason why and there are some prime examples out there. The reason why we have to keep developing this target market is so we don't lose focus on our businesses. And we've seen that quite regularly over the last few years with a number of distressed businesses or businesses that have gone out of business. The likes of Toys R Us, for example. Toys R Us, if you remember the slogan on the adverts, Toys R Us claimed it was a magical place. We're on our way there. It's called Toys R Us, Toys R Us, Toys R Us. Those of you old enough to, you're probably visualizing that particular advert now. But Toys R Us, when you go into the actual stores, claiming this magical place for its target market, when it kind of lost that magic. Now, I know Toys R Us had other issues, but it lost that magic that it was claiming that its target market would get involved in. And we could say that about many high street retailers that have struggled over the last few years. Debenhams a prime example at the moment. Have they lost touch of their target market? Why are their revenues falling? And if they are falling, it's because have they lost touch with the target market? Are they not delivering what their target market wants? Are they not thinking about this beach ball effect? Well, there are bigger things going on, I understand that. But again, it's thinking about this target market. And it'll be interesting when Boohoo take them over, how they will look at that. And maybe it's an opportunity for Boohoo to tap into a different target market that they don't have at the moment. But that's part of their expansion of their target market. Just a quick poll on the target market, just to get a flavour, just to see who out there has actually defined their target market. Because we're talking about this definition and making sure it's an objective definition. But is there anybody out there that has defined their target market and written it down? Yeah, fantastic. So it's quite a mixture there, isn't there? So yes, 61%. I've got a target market defined and written down. Some have got a target market defined but not written down. So that maybe you guys in those areas need to think about how you can write down this target market and maybe make sure that it's embedded in the culture of your businesses and shared with the rest of the people within your organization. And those that haven't defined the target market, probably something to work on as well. Quite a wide spread there. Interesting. What we've got to think about now is that, yeah, we've got this, we're thinking about our target market, but we've got to be careful that we don't fall into what we call the Field of Dreams principle. So in the Field of Dreams film, Kevin Costner, he owns a corn farm and he gets a premonition and he's told, build it and they will come. And it's in relation to these famous baseball players that will come. If he builds a baseball diamond field, they'll come, play baseball, and he can charge patrons to come and watch these famous baseball players. So that's what he does. And he cuts out a load of his crop, builds this fantastic baseball diamond field, and then he's on the brink of going bust because he's cut out his crop, he hasn't got the money coming in, and then finally he turn up. Magically, this baseball team turn up, fantastic, and it saves the day. But do we really get that in business? Do we really build our businesses and all our target market just rush in and start buying from us? Very rare, that, isn't it? Very rare. And at the time, you probably haven't built a brand to get these people, your target market, to come and buy from you. And the stats tell us that business failures in the first 2 to 3 years, between 33 and 50% of businesses fail. And the main reason is because they haven't got this defined target market. And because they're not building their business around that target market. But when you're thinking about this, when you're putting this target market together, again, go back to this ideal client scenario, think about it objectively, think about maybe the financial and the non-financial implications of this target market to develop this criteria that you're trying to develop. Maybe ask your team. That's a great way to find out what great clients are you working with at the moment? What not so great clients are you working with at the moment? What can you pick out the criteria from those to build this picture of this target market? We've got people that on the call at the moment, on the webinar at the moment, that have got their target market defined, big proportion. Maybe you go back and maybe revisit that. Is it still the right target market? Maybe you have a structure of having an ideal client graded, for example, where maybe you have an A to D graded, where the A and B clients make up the majority of your client base, and that is a key criteria. So building this is critical, and there's some exercises in the workbook. I think the workbook's been distributed out, so there's some exercise in there, so please have a look at those and work through those. So once we've got our target market and we've defined it, then we have to think about what our target market perceives about our products and service. And this particular chart is a good way of doing that. So we've got, on the vertical axes, we've got value. Horizontal axes, we've got price. The blue line that goes directly diagonal through the middle, wherever you are on the chart, on that blue line, the value equates to the price. If you're above the blue line, what that's saying is you're providing more value than the price you're charging for the products and services that your customers are buying from you. If it's below the blue line, you're providing less value for more price. Now, this is an interesting thing, and maybe you want to do this with your customers. So we'll just do a brief little poll on this. Now, where would you, as business owners, put your business on this matrix? Would you put it above the blue line, on the blue line, or below the blue line? Bearing in mind, if you go above the blue line, you're saying that you're providing more value to your customers than the price they pay for your products and services. And below, you're providing less value than the price that they're paying for it. Interesting. So that's kind of where I thought it might end up, which is good news. Below the line, no one's put anything below the line. So you guys all think that you're charging the right value for the price that your customers are paying for your products and services. Or some of you actually think you're providing too much value for the price. For those that are providing too much value, maybe you want to look at your pricing. Maybe are you charging enough for that value you're actually providing? What I want you to think about now is, I want you to think about, actually, if you took this chart to your customers, where would they plot your business on here? And that is the interesting thing. And if you want to try and close this perception gap to ensure that the value you're providing is what your customers want and what they're getting, then that's an interesting process to go through to ensure that this perception gap, you can actually close it. But find out, if they say you're below the line and you say you're above the line, you have got this perception value gap. But how do you close that? What do you need to do? Find out what you need to do. That's a great exercise to go through. Right, okay. So good exercise that to go through with, and maybe you do it with your own team as well. Where do they perceive it to be? So trying to close this perception gap between the value. Okay, what I want us to think about, just someone gives an idea on the chat we want to try and make these as interactive as possible. So what I want you to think about is, who has received recently a poor product or a poor service that you were really unhappy with? And if you're unhappy with it, would you buy from them again? So just put in the chat box, maybe something that's happened, maybe a utility company, maybe a product or service that you bought that should have arrived at Christmas, whatever it was, and why you're unhappy with it.
Okay, J Mystery's just put in that he bought AirPods recently, but they keep on falling out of his ears. He'll purchase Apple products again, though, but it doesn't sound like he's had a good experience with those ones. Karen's put, getting fed up with getting no response from drainage contractor, thinking of going elsewhere.
Yeah.
Zoe Shaw's put, bought a towel rail and it was damaged. There was a struggle to get it replaced, and the manufacturer even wanted to blame them for it.
Yeah.
Ali's put, ordered a surprise gift, a bake egg, and they didn't receive didn't include a delivery note, so the recipient didn't know who it was from. Which is great. Phil Cole's put shoelaces, and they broke on the third time of wearing the shoes. Ian's put, gym continuing to take subscription when closed. I know a lot of people have had a similar experience with gyms recently.
Yeah.
Louise has put, received a cold takeaway with items missing, wouldn't order from them again. Johnny's put, bought a new keyboard, wouldn't buy from them again as 2 of the keys were broken and the delivery was late. Greg's put, I'm having really poor connectivity down here in Guildford. Gonna have to watch the recording. That's fine, Craig, no problem. Phil's put, he's gonna get laces elsewhere from now on. Faye's put, Hermes delivered a parcel but it never arrived. Impossible to speak to anybody there. All automated with same message. There's been a slight delay. Very frustrating.
Right. Brilliant. So even the smallest of things really cheese us off, don't they? And sometimes I think if you put things into perspective, it's frustrating, but I mean, it's not a life or death situation, but we're all consumers, we're all customers, we all get cheesed off when we receive poor service. And the problem is, where we're not happy with it, we won't buy from them again, but we'll go and tell everybody else as well. So it becomes ultimately frustrating, and it's very difficult then to then think about in your businesses the things that cheese you off as a consumer, what you need to do to make sure that doesn't happen within your businesses. Make sure you're doing the right things. And to do that, what I wanted to think about is this magic wand. Okay. Now, ordinarily we'd be in the office and you'd all be having your magic wands out now, doing magic things within your businesses or doing things to correct things in the right way. Now, this isn't a Paul Daniels magic wand, okay? This is a Harry Potter magic wand. This does proper magic, okay? When we're doing this magic, we have to think about the craziest things that we can do to improve our products and services to deliver what our customers want. And I want you to use this magic wand on this next exercise. And we're going to take an example. Ordinarily, we'd be in the boardroom and we'd split the room and we'd have a couple of particular industries to have a look at. This one, we're going to use a bar and a restaurant. Now, bars and restaurants have had a real kick in over the last 10 months. So now's a great time for them to reset. What can they do differently to please their customers, to stand out, to be different? So what I want you to think about is, using your magic wands, what would be the perfect experience? We'll do a quick poll. Perfect experience that you would like to see different in a bar and a restaurant that you'd like to see when you go back to, when we get the opportunity to go back to a bar and a restaurant. What would you like to see? Be as crazy as you can with this.
So there's a few suggestions coming through. Table service, no queuing at the bar. Order online before you go, so you pre-order your meal and drinks.
Yeah.
Live music, more booths.
Yeah. I've heard things like making sure that you've got a separate line. Maybe you pay extra for your drinks to have a less of a queue, things like that.
Yeah. Jay's put a free bar and complimentary snacks.
Come on, Jay. They've had a bit of a bad time. They need as much as they can at the moment.
So he's put some entertainment, otherwise an environment which is quiet enough to chat in.
Yeah. No, some really good ideas there. And what you've put in there, have a look at your own businesses. Maybe you strip back your products and services. Get this magic wand out. What would you do differently that you didn't do before? And maybe you can start doing that. So it's a great exercise that to work with your teams to try and improve that product or service offering that you've got and give your customers what they want. We've just been through it as consumers there, what we want from these businesses. You can do that within your own businesses as well. What do we do now? So we've got our target market. We understand about this value proposition. We then need to make sure that we're delivering what our target market wants. What do we need to do to give our strategy the best chance of success? Well, you could go out and you could try and test it, or we could tap into the research done by Doug Hall. Doug Hall, who wrote the book, Jumpstart Your Business Brain. He ran the Eureka Ranch in Canada, and his customer base is huge, and he's got some major blue chip companies, the likes of Nike, Disney, Ford. And what Doug did, he developed a piece of software that looked at different products and services, about 4,000 products and services, business processes, different strategies. And as part of this research, he came up with some elements to make a successful strategy. And the three things were OB, overt benefit, RTB, reason to believe, and DD, dramatic difference. Now we'll go through these shortly, but it's been a tough 10 months. We're surrounded a lot of the time by such negative news. So let's have a laugh before we have a bit of a break. Just some slides, just to lighten the mood. Do not breathe underwater. Very sensible. Danger. Do not hold the wrong end of a chainsaw. If door does not open, do not enter. Yeah. Remove drinking. And as we're talking about drinking, let's all have a quick coffee break for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and delve into the three key elements that Doug Hall came up with from his research. Before the break, I showed you those slides just to give some sort of break up the monotony of the bad news. Now, all those slides had something in common, and they all stated the obvious. Now, sometimes in business, we don't state the obvious enough. We make too many assumptions that our customers or our prospective customers, they know what they want and they know what we do. And sometimes that is not the case. That was quite apparent in the 1920s in America, where the fifth largest beer manufacturer in America at that time was the Schlitz Beer Company. Now, they were struggling to gain any sort of market share. So to try and push them along in what was a competitive market, they struggled. So they got a copywriter in called Claude Hopkins. And the first thing Hopkins did, he took a tour of their facility. So he said, show me around, tell me about how you produce your product, how it's made. So the directors walked him around, And they showed him how the beer was cooled, so it got rid of impurities. He was shown this very expensive whitewood pulp filter that cleaned out the impurities. He was shown how the pumps and the pipes were cleaned at least twice in between batches. He was shown how the bottles were sterilized 4 times before the beer product was put into the bottles. He was shown this 4,000-foot well that had the purest of water, even though Lake Michigan was next door and was obviously less polluted than what it is now. So Hopkins said to the directors, brilliant story, why don't you tell everyone about this? And their answer was, everybody does that. Now, back in those days, because of alcohol, people wanted to make sure that the product they were drinking was the purest of products. So a lot of their competitors advertised as just a pure product, but they never described it in detail as the directors did when Hopkins walked around with them. So Hopkins said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to tell the whole of the world about how pure your product is, how things are sterilized. And that's what they did. And within months, Slips went from 5th largest beer manufacturer to the 1st, to the top. So what Doug Hall calls this, he calls this the over benefit. So he calls it the fact that you've got this benefit of your product or service and you express it. You tell everyone about it clearly, concisely, with passion. And we see quite a lot of businesses that have websites, etc., that we talk a lot about features. We're very good at telling our customers what we do. Sometimes we're not very good at telling them what the benefit of those features are. If anybody's read The Jelly Effect by Andy Bounds, Andy refers to this as the afters. So what we mean by that is, what do your customers get after they have dealt with you or after they've used your product or service? So examples, just simple examples, a drill bit. Nobody wants a drill bit. They want a hole in the wall. They want to make sure they put the shelf up, whatever it is. A Hoover. Hoovers are hideous things. No one goes and buys a Hoover and think, oh, this is nice. I'll just put it in the corner of my room. It looks nice and attractive there. They don't do that. They buy a Hoover because they want a clean house. They want to make sure that all the dust is cleared away, so the family are protected and safe, and things are clean. Air conditioning units. Another particularly not attractive piece of equipment. But you don't go and buy an air conditioning unit because of how it looks. You go and buy it because of what you get after. Your office is cool or it's heated. If that's the case, that means people who work for you are comfortable, they're happy. If they're happy, they make your customers happy. If your customers are happy, they'll buy more from you. If your customers are happy, they'll refer you. You'll get more customers. That'll help you achieve your personal and your business goals. But you've got to think about what you get after and make sure that that is communicated to your customers as well as your prospective customers. I said this features, so we're good at saying what our product actually does. We're sometimes not very good at saying what the benefit of that particular feature is to our customer. And you might say, well, why do I need an overt benefit? What do I need an overt benefit for? Well, if you look on a daily basis, and actually it was probably even more so when we were traveling into the office, traveling into work, less so maybe now where a lot of people are working from home, but you've got to think about on a daily basis the thousands and thousands of marketing messages that are thrown at you. Now, most of them you don't even know about because it isn't, you're not interested in it. It doesn't relate to you. So if we've got all these thousands of marketing messages, a car radio throwing out all advertisement, when you're in the car, when you travel to work, when you're stuck in traffic, the billboards and trucks coming past with advertising on, there's thousands of them. You get home from work, your radio again and the TV. So it's how many of these actually get through to you? And having an overt benefit gives you the best possible chance to get your message through these thousands of messages so that it gets directly to your target market and it gets into their conscious minds. So they become conscious to it. There's many times where you've probably done that, where your ears prick up when, yeah, I think I might have a look at that. It's that message getting through because it's a benefit to you. It's exactly the same as you're trying to do the same with your products and services to your prospective customers. And other things that you could think about, maybe the name of your business, exactly like Nike did. You know, Phil Knight talked about it in his book in terms of that Nike was originally called the Blue Ribbon Company. Nike meaning the Greek goddess of victory. Sounds better, doesn't it, than the Blue Ribbon Company? But maybe it's in the name as well. So we've got to think about making sure that this overt benefit is crystal clear. Okay? There's an exercise in the workbook that you can work through on this. And one way of doing it is to think about the features. So note down the features of your products or services. And then think about it, what that means. It means that and what the benefit is of that feature to your customers. You then might just slowly bring down the number of features that you've got and the benefit of those features, and then start pulling out this overt benefit. So as an example, this is a gardening service. So general gardening service, grass cutting, weeding, hedge trimming, tree pruning, fencing. So just your general garden service. Now, these are the features. So this is what this particular business does. But if we switch that around and say, right, what are the benefits of those features? We take care of your garden so you have time to enjoy it. We provide professional and efficient garden maintenance, saving you time and hassle and allowing you to relax and enjoy your garden. And you might say, I'm stating the obvious there. Surely they'll know that if we provide an efficient and professional garden maintenance service, they don't have to do it. It'll save them time and hassle. But actually, sometimes it's not expressed enough. It's about stating this obvious. Let us take the strain. We'll work year round to keep your garden in tip-top condition so you can enjoy it without the pain. A lot of us like gardening, but some of us don't. We find it painful. To take that pain away. We undertake routine specialist tasks that ensure your outside space looks at its best all year round. So you're just expressing the benefits from those features. So you can then split the particular services that are being provided, weeding with our careful plant husbandry and feeding and weeding, etc. So think about your products and services, think about these features, pull the features out, and what does it mean from those? What benefit do they get? And a lot of it is based around time, money, pain, peace of mind, getting things right that they might not be able to do themselves. So that is the benefit that we want from the products and services that we're buying. So just over to you guys, just anybody on the group at the moment, has anybody been through this process? Has anybody got an overt benefit within their businesses? Have they looked at this before, maybe, to say what sort of features, the benefits of those features are to their customer base? Is anybody utilizing this maybe and advertising it on their websites? We see a lot of websites that are about you, that don't really say what the benefit is to the customers. No, tricky one. Maybe that's something to work on. Try and work on that with your team. You know, maybe have a brainstorming session with your team to say, how can we pull out this overt benefit from our business and what we provide to our customers? Something to work on there. So we know what our target market is. We found that we know what our overt benefit needs to be. Now we've got to convince our prospective customers to buy from us. We've got to give them a reason to believe to buy from us. Some of the key things on this are, firstly, common sense explanations. Don't cut the jargon out. You know, these are the freshest flowers because we grow them locally. We can get you the best finance rates because we search whole of the market. So make it so simple. Get rid of this jargon. Personal experiences. Try before you buy. And you can do a try before you buy, not just saying there's some samples of my products, but you can do that with your services as well. Have a look. You're going to be working with this person through the services that we're going to provide. Why don't you just spend half a day with them? See if you like them, see if it works. Heritage and pedigree. Heritage is you have to kind of a little bit be careful with heritage. A 170-year-old accountancy practice, for example, to say it's 170 years old, fantastic, there's heritage, but if you're trying to sell as yourselves as a modern day accountancy practice, saying that you're 170 years old probably doesn't relate to those prospective customers that you're trying to obtain within your business. Heritage might only go back, say, 20 years, and 20 years might be too long. So if you're in an industry where technology is driving it and that technology is changing all the time, 20 years might be too much. It might be, oh, what have you done over the last 10 years? So I'd say just be careful with heritage. Pedigree is definitely critical. You know, have you got accreditations? Maybe you're part of a body. So whatever you are, have you got that pedigree? And people do buy into that. Testimonials. So we're all pretty much into a video conferencing world now. So testimonials have come a long way from paper-based testimonials to, you know, quotes from your current customer base, to looking at success stories, looking at the pain of what that success is. So what did you do? What was the issue that the client had, and what you did and what the outcome was? To more video stuff. You know, the video is only going to get more and more popular, and you know, I think we've probably all embraced it over the last 10 months, but it's ensuring that we embrace it going forward as well. Or maybe it's a reference with a current customer. So to actually sell to your prospective customer, to give them this reason to believe to buy from you. Put them in contact with your current customer base. Guarantees. Now, Doug Hall, he said the guarantees to get people to believe is one of the critical things to ensure that your strategy has the best chance of success. Guarantees, giving 100% back guarantee. Why would your customers, your prospective customers, not buy from you if you're offering 100% back guarantee? Now, you've got to make sure, that you can deliver. There's no point in giving 100% back guarantees all the time. You've got to make sure your products and service delivers. So do that first before you give the sort of money back guarantees that we talk about. But that gets the buy-in. Why would you risk your business if you weren't going to deliver? Something to look at. Look at how you're actually, what processes you've got within your own businesses to get these prospects to believe, to buy from you, to convince them. So certainly want to look at that to make sure that you are delivering on that. Okay. So we've now got our target market. We know who we should be aiming our products and services at. We've now got an overt benefit. We know how to convince our target market or give us the best opportunity to convince our target market to buy from us. Now, we've got to do something different, but we've got to do it dramatically. So DD is dramatic difference. And dramatic difference, from his research, Doug Hall says this is the key element to make sure that your strategy has the best chance of success. So he says sustainable competitive advantage comes from being different, not from being better. Sustainable competitive advantage comes from being different, not from being better. Right at the start of the presentation, I was talking about, do you want to be the norm in your industry, or do you want to be better, or do you want to be different? And actually, it's probably being different that will give you the best possible chance of success. So from the 5 zebras, they all pretty much look the same. How do we know, just looking at them, that one is better than the other? Very difficult to see which one is better. But we can see one that stands out. And you're all focusing on that one. Not sure why, but you're focusing on that one because it stands out. It's different to the rest. And when we're thinking about this, being better, yes, is the way we need to go, but we need to be thinking about being different, but being dramatically different. We'll come up with some ideas, but then say, right, times it by 10. Well, I've come up with this difference, but let's say, how do we make it dramatically different? Totally different to what the actual competition is actually doing. And maybe you'll look at things like what's relevant, what's revolutionary, what's in the news. How crazy can your idea be? Think about the magic wand concept. Being different gives you that competitive edge. It allows you to stand out a little bit more. Okay, some examples of this. The Geek Squad, who are in the IT network industry, and that sector probably didn't have a great reputation for reliability, etc. And the Geek Squad were probably pretty similar to their competition, but they stood out. So they had a difference. They looked different. They dressed differently. They turn up in the cars like this. So having an opportunity to be different gave them the better opportunity to obtain the new business that they were trying to generate. Other examples, Airbnb. And Airbnb, obviously, a disruptor to the hotelier market. And, you know, why wouldn't you want to stay in a house or somewhere a bit more luxurious, a bit more space than a hotel room? You're going to be away from the office for weeks on end. So Airbnb looked different. They disrupted the market. No. Again, sometimes it can be difficult, but this is all about giving you the best possible chance of this growth strategy to be successful. So having to look differently. Maybe it could be your offices that look different. Your environment that your people work in is different. Maybe the way you deliver the service is different. So trying to get yourselves that competitive edge. So that's the strategy overall. We know what our target market is. We know we have to tell our customer base and our prospective customer base what the overt benefit is of our products and service. We need to try and convince them, give them a reason to believe, and think about how we can be dramatically different to give us that edge over the competition. Going right back to the beginning for perspective, think about the beach ball as well. So understanding the metaphor that represents that, deliver the service, deliver the products and service that your customers want, not what you perceive they need. You know, there's various tools in the presentation today that you can take to them and try and close that value gap and get an understanding to make sure you're delivering what they want. We're running this in the office. It gives you guys the opportunity to network. If you've seen any comments on today that maybe you want to get in contact with anybody, do let us know, and we'll see what we can do to facilitate that. The next session is in March, 16th of March, so growing as a leader. Likely to be on a webinar that again. So a great session that you know, puts us as leaders to make sure we're doing the right things within our businesses to help our businesses grow, as well as us as leaders. And that's it for me. So thank you for your attendance this morning. Thank you for everyone who contributed to the chat. I know can be quite difficult. Any other questions afterwards, do let us know, and then we'll feed back.